Since the first part is a public hearing, we could probably get away with.
Yeah,
Not worried about him being here yet.
it is 7 o'clock. Good evening, everybody. I would like to, at this moment, open our public hearing, June 22nd, 2022. And this is in regards to the determination of non-significance. So,
You're good.
You're good?
I'm just tweaking this. Go for it.
anyone in the audience that would like to be recognized? State your name.
Chris Moritz.
Chris Moritz. Marge Womack.
Sage Wilson.
Sage Wilson. Thank you. So at this time, we would like to open it up for the public to talk and ask questions of the council. Public comments about the determination of non-significance.
Explain.
I'm going to turn this over to council position number 1, and we haven't called roll call, but
Well, I don't think we have to.
for this particular
part,
event, no.
For one of our grants, there's a number of documents that are required to be in place to be in compliance with the state of Washington. One of them is referred to as a critical areas ordinance. We'll address that later. Part of that document is a checklist for the State Environmental Protection Act. So we completed said questionnaire, and at the end of answering all the questions, it was determined that there's no significance environmentally for our critical areas ordinance. It's a lot of paperwork. And I'm obviously summarizing very easily, but it is required that we have a public hearing in case anybody has questions or comments or concerns about our determination of non-significance of the SEPA and the critical areas ordinance.
So basically, when we do this wastewater treatment plant, we're not going to make any kind of problems with the environment. We're basically going to
Got it.
redo what we have. Nothing new is going to happen. Nobody's going to be relocated.
Yeah. The critical areas ordinance is actually for the citywide, and it basically says if somebody puts in a building permit to build in a flood zone, which believe it or not we have in this town, it addresses how that will be addressed or attended to, which quite honestly as a city in that circumstance we don't, because the building permits are managed by the county.
So before the council votes on this, this is a time when you can talk to your council and tell them how you feel about it.
I have no questions.
Anybody else? Well, I think at 7:04, we will close the public hearing. And at 7:04 and 30 seconds, we will open our regular city council meeting for June 22nd. At 7:04. And at this moment, we will first of all take roll call. Council position 1, Joe
Here.
Ormond.
Here?
Council position 2, David Budris.
Present.
Council position 3, Stephen Hardy.
Here.
Position 4, Peter.
Present.
Okay, and position 5 is not here at the present moment. And I haven't heard from him, so we'll continue on without him. Again, we'd like to recognize any visitors and get them on the roll call here. Same group?
Stan Roth.
Stan Roth would like to be on the city council meeting. The others and everybody else is still the same. Thank you. Any additions to the agenda for tonight?
I have two brief comments, but they're comments not for discussion or anything.
Okay,
One is a statement about the city's website or web notification, and the second is about the PDA.
okay. Next on the agenda is approval of our bills. So if we could get a motion on the floor to approve the bills and then have discussion?
I'll move to approve.
Hmm?
One second.
I have no questions.
Move bills. Peter second. So it's been moved and seconded, by Councilman Shank is now here. We're in the regular meeting now. Levi, we've already had the public hearing,
All right.
which produced no comments. And we are right now going over our bills. It's been moved and seconded, so now the floor is open for discussion on the bills. So, does anybody have any discussion on the bills? It's been moved and seconded that we,
I thought it was on point that we bought a Troy-built weed eater.
it's not a normal weed eater.
Yeah.
It is a fairly large piece of equipment.
Well, I was referring to Troy Crawford.
Yeah,
Okay.
and we bought a Troy for him?
Yes.
Yes, that's
If we
true.
get a Peterbilt truck, I'm gonna get suspicious.
No. Well, yeah, this is a pretty large piece of equipment. It's not a handheld, it's a unit that
Yeah.
sits on its own wheels.
I
as-
figured at that price point it would need to be.
Yeah. For taking care of some of the large areas, it's the only one we have that actually works. So. Any further discussion? No?
Not that
I have a question.
Okay, Peter?
Hold on the right page. What's the $1,088 to HD Fowler for?
Those are for,
Splitting
The
the
sum-
overcharge?
no, those are the cement pieces that go around the meters. There's probably 8 or 9 of those pieces. The pieces that go in the ground, the cement go over the pipes,
Oh, yeah.
and you stack them up. Like the one we just put in up here actually has 5 of them. That water meter is about 6 feet below the ground, so you have to stack these things up, and they're 12-inch pieces of concrete. So those are pieces of equipment or pieces of hardware that go into the meter boxes.
I guess I've seen them stacked around town.
There's several of them down by the city shop right now.
Yeah. Thank you.
And we're waiting till September for the rest of the pipe, if it sounds odd, but we can't even get galvanized pipe at this point in time to finish one of those jobs.
Can't get pipe for what reason?
It's not available.
Thank you. Yes, that's it. It's just,
Supply shortage?
I've been looking for pipe myself.
we could come up with 100 different reasons for who to blame or whatever, but it's like most everything right now.
Do
There's
they have to
supply-
be galvanized?
Well, I think that would probably be a good idea for when we're gonna put pipes in the ground.
Can't use-
It's a very common item. It's not that it's a strange thing we're asking for. It's just that there is none of it available right now to speak of. Pieces here and there. We're trying to buy hose bibs to replace the ones at the cemetery, turnoffs. None to be had.
Okay, thanks.
We've moved and seconded.
It's been moved and seconded.
Call the question.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded, and Levi called the question. Do we have a second on that?
Second.
Seconded. So, all in favor of passing the bills or the current charges,
Aye.
signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
I said with Levi, yeah.
So, we got 5-0. Is that correct? Thank you, gentlemen. Okay. Let's put that one down. The next one is to approve the regular meeting minutes for June 8th.
Move to approve.
Second.
I see one change that I'd like to have made, and that's for under mayor comments. Second line, it says, the owner does not accept the liability. Want to get rid of the word with.
After liability. After the word liability.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's my only correction to that.
I have one clarification. Under visitors, Denise Halling, it's just Halling, singular, no S on it.
No, not Hollings.
Correct.
Okay. Okay, one more correction. Everybody ready? Okay. So would you like to change your motion to accept them as amended?
I would.
You would. Thank you, sir. So it's been moved and seconded that we approve the minutes from the June 8th meeting as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed? Okay, 5-0. Thank you, gentlemen. So I have a piece of paper here, given to us by a gentleman sitting in the room.
Can I interrupt you before you go to that?
Yes, sir?
Very quickly, since I know I'm the next item on the agenda, before you officially get me out of office, I do want to give a quick little report. We are still working on our annual report. We are a number of weeks late with that report. It's a very complicated report. We're not the only city in Washington State that does not have that in at this time. You can always go to the SAO office. But working pretty hard on it, and we are just about done with the biggest chunk, known as the Schedule 1. And that's where I've gone through basically every transaction for 2021 and compared those with our numbers and made sure that we were giving them accurate information, because when you submit a Schedule 1, you get what are called red flags. The SAO program will find different things that don't quite match up, or they look for, does your beginning balance match your ending balance from the previous year, and things like that. So as we're trying to get things correct in bias, we want to make sure that we're matching up with the state auditor's office. So that should be done in the next few weeks. We are also, Sage and I have been meeting several times as far as going through her responsibilities and how to do the job. Not to toot my own horn, but she's a great student and she's learning very quickly. So things are going to go very, very well. I'm very pleased. Lastly, I was in touch with Cynthia Fuller from the Department of Commerce today, as well as, I never can say her name, Umbrea Cormier from USDA, and we're working through the two, there are balance sheets that they want in for the $30,000 water plan, and then also the refinance that you guys are doing for the USDA. And she walked me through a couple of different processes today to finish up those balance sheets. One is specifically on our water system, so I'll have to go through and determine assets and liabilities and cash balances just on water alone, but also on our current expense fund. They want to see that as well. And she gave me some clarifications today that'll make finishing those up very, very easy to do. I told her I should have those in by Monday or Tuesday of next week, so that you and your engineers can move forward and get your water plan and also finish up this this refinance that you're doing. So the city is in very good shape financially. What I'm seeing in bias and what I'm seeing in my own records, you have nothing to fear but fear itself. Things are in very good shape. So my intention is that once that letter is read and voted on, that the mayor has in his hand, that yes, my time of service will be over, but I will continue to work in a volunteer capacity until our annual report is done and submitted, and until Sage feels like she can just go and run with things and call me on an occasional basis if she needs some question answered. So that's it. That's my report.
Do you need any help?
I will be calling on you in the next week or so when I submit the Schedule 1 and the Schedule 9. There's a couple of schedules that have to be submitted,
Right.
but once those are in, then those pieces that you're going to need to do along with, I'd love to have Nathan come in and help me as well, and help
That's
you
the plan.
to wrap this thing up. So, but we're okay. So I've been in contact with those folks, and everything's going fine.
Very good. Thanks, Mike. Could I get my official reader to read this letter for me?
Wow, okay.
Thank you, Joe.
I will recite the letter that our mayor has received. Mayor Jess Silham, members of the Harrington City Council, please accept this letter as notice of my intention to resign my position of city treasurer effective June 22nd, 2022. I will continue to take care of all city treasurer duties until that date. This will allow me to be certain that the May Treasurer's Report is completed, as well as the 2021 Annual Report to the State Auditor's Office. In addition, this should allow the city 3 months to find my replacement. It has been my pleasure to serve this city as both councilman and now as treasurer. I have only ever endeared to do my best to make sure that the city is cared for to the best of my abilities. Thank you for entrusting me with this position to contribute for the last 3+ years. It has been challenging due to the high turnover rate and other positions, but I have truly enjoyed the work. Due to some personal reasons, however, it is time to set aside and allow someone else to carry the trust of the city and its citizens in the role of city treasurer. I will be available after my resignation should any questions about the position come up. All you have to do is contact me. Respectfully, Michael Conrath, Treasurer, City of Harrington.
So I'd like to thank you personally for your service, Mike. The few times that you and I have worked together, I can say you truly are a teacher. You were able to explain and get it through my head what we needed to do. So thank you very much, not only for your service, but helping out and your continued help. Thank you for all the time you put in.
Do you have to formally accept it?
I'm not 100% sure of that. Do you think we need a motion to accept this?
Never hurts.
Okay? Would somebody?
With great thankfulness that I move to accept Mr. Cronrath's resignation. Thankfulness for his time and service.
I'll second.
So it's been moved and seconded that we accept Mike's letter of resignation here. So the floor is open for discussion. Any discussion?
I have nothing.
Nothing.
Well-written letter.
Yeah, I agree.
We have a great deal of thanks to Mike for good service.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. So it's been moved and seconded that we accept Mike's letter. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? 5-0. Thank you, gentlemen. The next issue on the docket here tonight is to approve our new treasurer, which we've already done, but now that we've accepted the resignation for the old one, would somebody like to make a motion to accept Sage, to appoint Sage to become our new treasurer until the next election cycle?
So moved.
Okay, thank you, Peter.
I'll second that.
So it's been moved and seconded that we appoint Sage Wilson to be our treasurer until the next election cycle. Any discussion? No?
I have none.
Been moved and seconded? All in favor of having Sage be our new appointment as a treasurer until the next election cycle, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, the same? 5-0. Thank you, gentlemen.
Welcome aboard.
Welcome, Sage. And now, could we ask our clerk to swear Sage in?
I thought we had an official reader.
You wouldn't want him. You wouldn't want him to take one of those jobs that are specifically given to you.
Oh, he can be my secretary. Okay. Repeat after me. Do we want to do it? What do we want to do here? I don't know. I'm used to the military one, so I got to rethink here. Just repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Sage Wilson,
Do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear or affirm
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution and laws of the state of Washington,
and the Constitution and laws of the state of Washington,
and that I will faithfully and impartially
and that I will faithfully and impartially
perform and discharge the duties of the office
perform and discharge the duties of the office
of the City of Harrington Treasurer
of the City of Harrington Treasurer
according to law,
according to law,
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
There you go.
Very good. Welcome aboard, Sage. That's done.
Never smelled anything
That was the easy part.
better. So far.
Good job. Get
Reception
going now.
ceremony, yeah.
But you got that slick truck to work from, so.
I vote we take a 10-minute recess.
Oh, I should have seen that one.
And you gonna date this later? Doesn't matter.
Or we can do it
Today
now.
is the 22nd day.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Year of our Lord 2020.
Two.
Two. The sequel.
Thank you, Jerry.
All right.
Moving
Can you
right
say
along
Latin
here.
though, Stephen?
Big Latin. I'm not Catholic.
So it's been a long time coming, I'll tell you. Joe, thanks so much for all of the time you've spent with Miss Dial and all of the rest of the people from Department of Commerce, Department of Fisheries, the Department of this, that,
Ecology.
of all of them. So we've come to the point now that our ordinance number 506, which replaces number 448, which is the old critical ordinance.
I have a question, point of clarification. If
Sure.
I understand this correctly, this is the same ordinance that we already voted to approve. The only difference between what we did and what we're doing now is that it needed to sit in public view for 60 days. And so, unless anyone has a new problem with it, we're just reaffirming the vote that we already passed 5-0, correct?
That is correct.
Thank you.
No, I will, well, to follow procedure, I did find some technical errors in what we originally improved. Simply put, the ordinance that we were replacing, I originally had written down that you guys approved as being 413. And in digging in deeper, clarified that that was not the one we were replacing, it was 448. So, but that got corrected across the board, but that was it.
Okay. And all of the agencies in the state have had 60 days in which to look at this and add their additions or deletions or ask you to make changes, which we've done.
We have implemented, we didn't have to, but we implemented all the recommendations that they brought forth.
Yeah.
Mostly it was from, I believe it was Ecology and Fish and Wildlife were probably the two biggest ones that had just clarifications.
So this replaces something that hasn't been done for like 12 years now, and also gives us the ability to move forward with a HUD grant and several other pieces of,
Yeah, and to let
Work, work,
everybody
work,
know,
right.
this is required to be done every 8 years.
yeah,
And the last-
updated.
Updated, and the last time it was done was 2005. So it's sadly overdue.
Move to approve.
Second.
So, it's been moved and seconded to approve ordinance number 506 replacing 448. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Wonderful, gentlemen. That is the end
Almost.
of months. Well,
Now we have
That-
to vote on our ordinance to say the one we just voted on doesn't mean anything.
Well, no, actually, this number 506 or 507,
So this is, if I may,
please do.
okay, this has come up in the last couple of weeks after we were done with our 60 days of 506 and all that was done. Then I find out that ordinance 507 is required to basically reiterate some of the components of 506. It simply says that based on the RCWs and the requirements of what have you, this ordinance allows 506 to in fact replace 448. It's just another administrative bureaucratic place that has to be done.
Move to approve.
Second.
So it's been moved and seconded to approve ordinance number 507 as stated and written. Any further discussion?
None here.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same? Wow. This is a record night, gentlemen. Anybody who would like to have copies of this, 507 is actually pretty good. It's for simple people who want to know. It's 2 pages that turns 40 pages into 2.
What's it in regards to, if I may?
Pardon me?
What is it in regards to, if I may ask?
This is in regards to ordinance number 506. 507 gives you a brief description of what this whole thing basically says. I found it pretty interesting.
I'll check it out later.
Okay? But it's just a wonderful thing to have all that done. That's actually been, I don't know, a couple months in preparation to get it off for the state to have for 60 days. And now they've had it and it's done. And our SEPA environmental checklist is included in that, is it not?
It's part of 506.
So we don't have to vote on SEPA.
Nope.
Wow, I'm gonna sleep better tonight. So, the next thing on the agenda is Resolution 234-22. And that's a resolution to do with the library board. And we're trying to replace an old ordinance, which is 96-94, which was started in 94 by Paul. And this one defines how the library board will be set up and who everybody answers to. So if we could get a motion to approve Resolution 234-22.
I'll make
To
the,
approve.
I'll make the motion with it. I think it needs a little context and discussion.
Okay? So it's been moved by Stephen. 234-20.
I'll second it.
Moved by Stephen, seconded by Joe. So it's on the floor for discussion.
I'll let Joe speak in a sec here if he has anything he wants to read in, but, so this is the outcome of the committee that the mayor assigned to look into some concerns with the operation of the library board and the validity, I guess you could say, of the current board members, given concerns of term limitations. There were, I'd say, 2 primary tasks for us in that endeavor. One was to determine what we believed the current state of things were. The other was to figure out a way to amend the ordinance such that it did not allow for the questions and perhaps confusion that the current one did. In my personal opinion, I think that the current ordinance is written very much like the RCW, but the RCW I did not find to be very clear on some things about how terms worked and this, that, and the other thing. We tried to elucidate a little bit more in areas where we were kind of mirroring and echoing what the RCW said. We added the clarification of what we found in talking with lawyers about things like we put position numbers on things because it was our understanding that like as council members, we have position numbers and there's different, in our case, there's different term durations, right? And if you come into a person's term, your first term is fulfilling the rest of the one that you were appointed for, right? But that was difficult without position numbers before and the tracking that's associated with that. So we wanted to clarify that. We wanted to clarify what the RCWs have to say about the role of the librarian and whose employee that is and what they are responsible to. Again, that mirrors the RCW and it calls that out so that the document stands on its own a little bit more and leads to perhaps less confusion. So I think that's the context of the document. Joe was the primary scribe, and maybe when he talks here in a second, he might elucidate a little bit more on what changes were made there. The other thing that we concluded with it is that given the questions about the term limitations and the validity of the current board, it would be a cleaner solution to ask for the resignation of the current library board and start over and reappoint a new board. So that is the recommendation of our committee, and that's what we would recommend the council as a whole do in that situation to clean things up and to move forward. Joe, do you have anything you want to add?
That pretty much sums it up. I mean, I will clarify that the bulk of this resolution is boilerplate RCW.
And was. I mean,
Yeah. When I was writing it, I pretty much found that the original resolution, which is based on an RCW that doesn't even exist anymore, but there's a lot of commonality. But they both were almost cut and paste directly out of the RCW. And like Stephen elaborated on, we just cleaned up some areas that maybe the RCW was a little vague and that we wanted to see a little more specifics like the position numbers. I found that to be important because the original resolution simply appointed people into positions by name. Mm-hmm. But unfortunately, there was no tracking kept that identified who replaced this person, replaced that person, replaced the other person, on and on and on. So we felt by numbering them like council positions, we can track that easier and clean it in, because then later on when somebody resigns or quits and we have to replace them, we know that they're fulfilling an unexpired term for position number 2 or 5 or whatever that case may be.
just like our positions, just like the
Exactly.
school board.
Yeah. So,
Did you guys talk to an attorney, a city attorney on this?
2 of them.
Okay.
Have our current library board members been apprised of this before we vote tonight, just out of curiosity?
Yes.
Okay. Only question I had.
How many board members on the library board? 4? 5. That makes sense.
I think one thing is we need to remember is the way this is designed as council, we're looking to appoint or I'm sorry, recommend is the correct term. We're looking to recommend a person to the library board every year at a minimum. The way
No.
this, yeah.
No, after this is in place, the library board makes the recommendations to the mayor, and the mayor appoints with the approval of the council. At least, that's what it was in the original ordinance, and I have to double check
That,
The only time that we're involved with the creation of the list, only at in the startup procedure. But perhaps I'm wrong, let me see here.
Section 4?
Section 3, library board members shall be appointed by the mayor at the consent of the city council.
Yeah.
Right, and there's a thing, there was at least a section that says in the case of a vacancy, that the library board would provide a list of names.
The new RCW says vacancies shall be filled for the remainder of the unexpired term as soon as possible in the manner in which members of the board are regularly chosen.
Okay, so then we changed that from the old ordinance then.
Yeah, that was a change
I think I
in the
deleted
RCW.
one of these files.
Okay, I'm sorry,
Did you?
I was confused on that. I was thinking of the old ordinance and not the new. Thank you, Joe.
So it's just,
Yeah.
that's gonna be our responsibility, is that going forward, every year, we will be responsible for putting before the mayor a board
Yeah.
member to be replaced.
It might not be a new one though, because
It's in
if a
both,
person is put in they've just finished up their first term of 5 years,
Mhm.
and they can go for a
you see it?
second term of 5 years, it might be putting up the same name.
That's true, that's true.
Yes, there are.
So I think section 7 is a rather important section. I don't think that was in there before.
They're bits
Yeah,
and pieces.
so bits and pieces of it were, exactly. Section 7 kind of clarifies and I'll read it if you guys don't mind in the audience. And I know it's highly compelling, interesting stuff, but the library board shall meet at least once a month on a designated day to conduct business of the Public Library of Harrington. These meetings shall have minutes recorded and document through parliamentary procedure any decisions made. Minutes shall be reviewed and approved by the library board. By the way, that's a typo as a recommendation. The word after board needs to be deleted. So approved by the library board at the subsequent meetings. Approved minutes shall be retained in compliance with the Washington State Open Public Meetings Act.
Do you want a copy of that, David?
No, I got it. I got
Okay.
it here, thanks.
Those things are,
So you need a motion.
No, it's been moved. and
It's
seconded.
been moved and
We're in
seconded,
discussion.
sorry.
More discussion.
yeah, it's been moved and seconded. And it's on the floor for discussion. Any further discussion? No, no,
I'm good.
no?
Are we voting on 7 initially or the
Whole
whole
ordinance.
shebang?
We are voting on resolution 234-22, which replaces the old resolution 94-96.
Thank you. Makes sense.
So it's been moved and seconded that we accept this. Was there a couple of,
I know of one typographical error in section 7.
okay,
Do we need to amend?
I accept the amendment as a friendly amendment.
okay. It's moved and seconded. So we're ready now for a vote. All those in favor of resolution 234-2022 signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed, the same? Amazing. Next thing on the agenda is the mayor's update. Today, we had a joyous little celebration this morning with 13,000 gallons of water at Adams Street, in which we unleashed it at the top of the hill and watched it flow down to see if it violated any private property past the curbs. And I'm tickled pink to say that nobody's houses got wet. So they not only have a wonderful new street, but it tolerated a 13,000 gallon deluge in a matter of moments. And And when we left, all of the homeowners were giving high fives, so they were happy campers. And it looks very nice. What a treat to have another street that's finished in town.
Here, here.
Hopefully we can move forward with that and do some more of that in the future. I don't have a lot to bring you up to date on other things. Our back truck is still in the part. We're waiting for one gear from the blown up PTO, which drives our vacuum pump. So at the present moment, we're still without our back truck. We've managed to spend a little more of the city's money this week when the tire on our backhoe blew out. So that required a new tire tube, and our old backhoe is up and running again. So we're still moving forward, getting our equipment going. And that's about the only thing I have. The finish of this whole thing right here is just a major, major feat. Months worth of work here by several people, and thanks to everybody who jumped in and grabbed the bull by the horns and got this done. So I think the last thing on the list is public comments.
I have a question.
That'll suffice, I guess.
Did you dump the water on purpose?
Yes, the water was dumped to see if if the curbing and the water diversion, which is a mopped-in curb or a drive-over curb, it's not a Class A, as they call it, which you'd have out in front here. These are the kind of curbs that you can drive over. And the reason they put those in is because we have on-street parking all up and down. And all of that water stayed within the confines of the curb and the street,
And where did it go?
went into the catch basins and down and out. So it didn't go into people's yards or into their driveways, which
We were successful.
Yes.
it really wasn't. I mean, yes, the water test was successful. I mean, when I looked at it, there was things that I had concern. Just what your eye sees and where that water goes. You could, as I told two of the homeowners, we can't make the water go. We're gonna dump it. Where do you wanna see it dumped? So we moved the truck several times and put water in a couple different areas. And they were happy with the results, so
Who pays for the water?
I wasn't concerned with that. I was concerned with getting that situation done and seeing everybody's property come through. So the contractors and everybody with all their transit and laser levels, it worked.
Good.
Cool.
And that was not an easy situation when you figure houses were put in 30, 40 years ago. Some of them are below the roadway. So as you can imagine, that's a bad news thing when you got a roadway up here and a lot of water that could go down into your basement or so. The engineers and the people doing the job knew what they were doing. It turned out wonderful.
Good.
So that's a great thing.
They were on time.
They were on time. And I haven't got the final cleanup and everything else, but I think we have no add-ons. I hope we have no add-ons.
Well, that'd be nice.
They did a couple other things throughout this job, but they also didn't have to bring in a lot of fill that they anticipated. So there may have been enough in the bid to cover a couple other little things they did. And that was pretty much what I heard from
Is
Petey.
that saying we might not have to pay that $1,800?
very possibly we may get that refunded to us.
That was floated out there, I remember that.
So,
I've got my two agenda items.
oh,
today.
sorry, Joe.
But it's fine, this is an appropriate time, this is public comment.
Yes.
So, it's not asking for any action yet. If you guys have not heard, the person who manages harringtonbiz.com org, the website that we as a city have been putting our notices through, she is going to discontinue that role at the end of the year. And I think it's something that we as a council should start thinking about. This might be the catalyst for us to develop our own website for the city and how to manage it and how it to be managed in the future. It's a topic that's going to come to a head here in about 6 months, and I think we should start thinking about it now. That was A. B, I was at the PDA, the Public Development Authority meeting last night, and they just wanted me to take this opportunity that if anybody is interested in coming to those events and seeing kind of what some people are trying to do and add some fresh ideas and some fresh thoughts, the people that are doing it have been doing it for a long time, and maybe some fresh viewpoints would be welcomed. I know they would love to see some more people get involved. So if we know anybody that's kind of on the fringe that says, yeah, I'd like to get involved and don't know how, that'd probably be a great way for them to just start seeing what some of the nuts and bolts in the town is doing. So, that was it.
And the PDA meeting's third Tuesday.
Third Tuesday, but because they don't have a lot going on right now, last night they changed it to quarterly. Their bylaws allow them to meet no less than once a year, so quarterly is still exceeding the minimum expectations. So I don't know if the next one is going to be in August or when. Maybe check with Jay or Heather.
Let us know if you would.
I'll pass it on. I'll find out when exactly the next meeting is going to be and email that to you. So
I have one item on the mayor's update. What was the final resolution of the Johnson family towing lease? Have we, to my recollection, we haven't finished that, have we?
I think your recollection is correct.
Where does it stand?
We have done nothing on that as we moved ahead with other things here, nor have they done anything.
Is the property still occupied?
In the same manner that it always has been.
What's the city's intent?
I don't know that I can give you an update on that at the moment. We had talked about many things. And they haven't moved forward a whole lot. So,
Okay, thank you. We haven't had a fire department inspect, have we? Fire marshal?
I would say no, there has not. Nor an electrical inspector. And I don't know if we have an electrical inspector. That would be Washington State, I believe.
that would be Labor and Industries.
Yeah, Illinois, through the state.
Okay,
But we never did, we never did determine, excuse me, if they have a valid lease. We never did find out, get that straightened out, did we?
Nope, we did not go to a lawyer about that. And I hate to say it, but the city didn't follow through with that and kinda allowed that to go. And after you accept 8 or 9 months worth of rent, I think they would probably not side in our behalf.
Well, it was for an additional 2 years, wasn't it?
Yeah, which should be coming up.
So-
I-
If we have a letter that was given claiming such, so I guess at this point, do we just bite the bullet and count that letter as the starting point for their 2 years extension? Or do we want to upset the apple cart now midstream? And then when it comes up again, that's when we get a hold of an attorney and have them drop a lease and we address all this. I don't know, because
This is all recollection, but if I remember right, it was a 2-year with a possibility of a 2-year,
extension.
but it wasn't beyond that.
Right, it's 2 years.
I think by the time if we needed to take action and got attorneys and what have you, by the time all that starts seeing ahead, the current lease is going to be expired. I mean, assuming the second term is valid.
Right. Well, I just, my concern is that we had some concerns about this, living in the premises. And if we allow them to do that for the, the term of the lease, another 2 years, and the end of that two years, and we say, no, you can't do that,
Yeah.
where do we stand legally on that? So we didn't nip it in the bud early. I don't know the.
We addressed it with them and told them our concerns. Again, I think if it became an issue long-term, we're gonna find that the lease expires before we get any kind of satisfaction on it. Because you can't just, especially under the current Washington state guidelines for having people leave and I mean, going in so far as an extreme of, what's the term, having somebody evicted, it is not a simple or cheap process at this point.
So is council, the city, are we good with the fact that we just let them run the remainder of this term, the 2 years, and at that point, we get one drawn up with a new lease, let's say?
That's the copy, David, and I believe those are the time frames.
Well, clearly, I don't see the city council, mayor, anybody authorizing the current situation moving forward into another lease.
Right. So, I mean, my point is, do we wait till that time to drop the ball, or to, in the new lease?
Take
Definitely, I
action.
would like a new lease, because this one
Yeah.
doesn't quite cut it. But at that point, we say, this is our requirements, and this and that, and then, right now, it's a moot point. I know that you've already
Yeah.
talked to them, and we just bite the bullet and just let things, bygones be bygones until this is up. If we recognize that as a valid lease,
Yeah.
what they did.
I know for me, as a council person, I wouldn't approve that lease into the future,
No.
regardless of anything.
So,
Have we renewed it once?
It was renewed. Let's just,
Yes.
it was implied to be renewed.
the intent
Implied contract,
was there.
no
On-
signatures?
Well, it didn't
No.
need signatures for renewal, I don't think.
Yeah.
It's just an option they picked up, right?
So how long does the present arrangement run?
Okay, the original, just to answer your question, the original lease shall commence June 1st, 2019, and expire midnight on May 31st, 2021. That happened. They claim they brought a letter, okay, it gets in here to when, if they want another, let me get that part.
2-year extension, it's in there someplace.
Yeah, it's not in order here, I apologize.
Yeah.
But just in a nutshell, they have the option to renew it an additional 2 years.
2 years.
And they have to do that, they have to let the city know 60 days.
Correct.
Prior to May 31st. They sent we found a letter, somewhat objectionable, but they claim that they sent a letter and dropped one off here to somebody, and it was dated March 28th, I believe.
Yeah.
And we have that in file, so, going by that, they have another 2 years. May 21, so May 22, May 23
So end of May
of 23.
2023.
A little over a year from now. Well,
So,
not quite a year.
in that time, and since we didn't follow up, and there's, quite frankly, hurt feelings could have happened. It would have been a negative effect because this contract didn't spell out a lot of stuff from the get-go. My recommendation would be to just, we accept it for face value. They claim that, they're happy with, they claim that they renewed it for another 2 years, that we just proceed, accept it as such. End of March of, May of 2023, we draft up a new contract. If they're still interested in leasing it, fine. But at that point in time, we put in all our concerns. You can do this, do that, can't do this, can't do that. All the provisions
Proper
and
renewal
cover it. Yes.
procedures with
I hope that's
counter-signature.
clear.
Yeah, no, it is. That's exactly.
Has any representative of the city inspected the residential part of it?
We did at one time. I'm gonna say it was right after the first of the year.
Mhm.
I was on crutches at the time, so it must have been after January 11th.
And
And
you
there
went out a
was-
separate time, right, Joe?
No.
You've been twice?
No, I've been there a second time.
And I believe there's provisions in the current, what we're going over or going by, that they need written permission from the mayor, city, to do remodeling, or they need permission to do some of the stuff that they've already done.
Yeah.
Did they? I don't know. That would be prior to Mr. Silham's mayor position here.
If the lease is not renewed, are they required to remove the residential portion that they've built in?
I would sure think so.
We should address that with
I
them before.
can't imagine that.
It'll be in here, but I seem to recall there's something about any alterations or changes and have to be removed, and the property has to be returned in the same manner, in the same condition it was rented.
Is anybody else concerned about the liability the city may face in the
Well, it's a-
event of a fire or injury?
It's a major concern. As long as our insurance is up, yeah, and they carry insurance, I think they're required in there to carry so much insurance, like $1 million, or they're.
He did bring us an insurance
Okay, he did
voucher.
provide that. Okay.
Finally,
Okay.
that was brought
Yes.
to us.
Okay.
So that's addressed
in here?
and.
No, I believe it's in the file that Jerry has up there in the top drawer.
Okay.
The lease was renewed during the clerk transitions, and it was, they talked to a lady. What lady? Well, we don't know. So there was some change at that time. There was some flux
There was.
with different people, and it was a little chaotic, so the city did not do the best job of record keeping at the time.
Yeah.
So, I know since I came on board, we keep every piece of paper and date them, and I'm big into stamping dates on everything.
So in other words, we can't change anything going, at this point, if we accept, we took their money, taken their money, and recognize them as tenants. We can't do anything with that until, May of 2023.
Or we could, at what expense though?
Well,
Yeah,
Take a
and,
lot of time and headache.
there'd be
yes,
a lot of bickering back and forth, honestly, because
yeah,
did they get approved? Now, to reiterate, there was a lot of changing of guards and a lot of stuff.
yeah,
One mayor might have said, yeah, sure, go for it. Don't know that, and so you'd have to prove that. So there is provisions in here that they are supposed to get prior permission. And they're gonna claim, yes, we did, and we can't refute that. I mean,
Butt heads.
we can't, I mean, you can't do anything about that, unfortunately. So, like I said, my recommendation, at this point, it's, I hate to use the term, but a dead subject, in the fact that we can't, we're bound by this prior contract.
Thanks for the clarification.
Unless somebody else sees something different.
I think I agree with you, David, but I don't get to vote in this subject.
Go back through public comment. since we discussed business, 3 items of business.
So our public comments.
I have one.
Yes, ma'am.
I don't know if you're aware, but there's somebody in town that's been shooting animals.
Been doing what? Shooting animals?
Shooting animals. There've been 2
Multi-legged animals?
Yes.
Okay.
There have been 2 cats and a dog. The dog was killed, and the one cat was repaired, and I took the other cat to the vet on Monday, and it had to have its right arm amputated. And that's all I can tell you. I know nothing more about it. One of the animals belongs to Jill Barth, and the other cat belongs to a lady that lives behind the old US Bank. And I don't know who the dog belonged to. Excuse me.
These are animals that are out running loose, or you don't?
Well, I hope so, because I wouldn't want them shot in their homes. But yeah, they're out. They're out and about.
Where was the dog?
Have no idea.
Do you
Those-
do you know whether the vet recovered a projectile from the injured animal?
Good question.
The one in Ritzville that I took the one cat to said it must have been a pellet. It wasn't a BB gun because it had too much, he said you have to pump it.
Yeah.
And when it's pumped up, it's got more power and it shattered the cat's shoulder.
So it's not a firearm.
Correct.
No. But it could still kill a kid.
Of course. I had a few of those at one time.
Children or pellet gun?
Has this been
Spring
reported to
pistons?
the sheriff's
Yeah.
office?
They'll
Yes,
go
the
22,
sheriff's
2300
office
feet per second,
Oh, yeah.
faster than a
Interviewed
22.
one person in town
I know.
and,
They
and
what?
twice. The sheriff's office has interviewed one person in town over the incident on two occasions. And I don't wanna start any rumors on that.
So can you come by with any information you have?
Was this fairly recent?
The cat that I took to the vet was shot last Thursday, so
Okay.
it was almost a week ago. And the person who owns the cat didn't have the money or means of motivation to get it to the veterinarian, so that's why I did it.
So if it's a spring piston, it takes one cock, not multiples. And there's almost no sound from that. You'll hear a boink. It's a spring that's about 8 or 10 feet long that's compressed into a
Well, I'm
small
just,
area. And these are expensive firearms. They're not cheap.
we've got a lot of
Air
loose
rifles.
animals around
Yes.
town.
Yes, yeah, correct.
We've got a lot of loose animals around town, and I'm just worried that with the kids out for summer, that maybe somebody's really ticked off and, with their cats using their yard as a restroom and whatnot, but if they get really, adventurous, they may shoot a kid. That's all I'm kinda concerned about. I'm concerned for
you're-
the animals too, but.
Do we have an ordinance regarding animal, I know for dogs, but I don't know about kitty cats.
I'm not
I know-
aware, I mean,
I know Odessa does, but
the 2 newest council members are asking each other this question. I'm not aware, I've never heard of anything for cats. I've heard of things for dogs, the famous dog ordinance, but
Like a cat at large?
yeah, and license, we have a license. Is anybody, well, it's another subject. Is anybody following through or following the law or the ordinance of licensing their pet? We don't have one for a cat, I believe.
It's only for dogs.
Dog only?
Dogs are the only ones that needed to be licensed.
It just has to go woof woof and have a tail.
Long ears.
I have birds that do that. Knock it off.
I think feathers are exempt.
Okay.
Beaks.
Yeah.
A beak ordinance.
And
that'd
eat
be
hot
good.
dogs instead of bird feed.
That's
Okay.
sad.
It is.
You're assuming it's a grown-up who's doing this, not a younger.
It got, well, the first one that was hurt was prior to school getting out, from what I understand, so,
Was what?
was prior to school getting out. So, they were in school, under the age of 18.
I see.
But, that I don't know.
And you don't know a
Pure
general
conjecture
area
on my
where
part.
these incidences are happening?
Right over here.
Yeah.
Behind the bank, somewhere over in
Between
that couple
Maine
blocks
and-
between Glover
Yeah,
and
it was
Maine?
Jill
Yeah.
Bart's cat and this other lady's, cat, and then I don't know who the dog belonged to.
I heard that somebody across the road out here, there was a big white dog
I don't
that's
know.
at the golf course pretty regular, and the other one was shot recently. I don't know any more than that.
Yeah, it was killed in their backyard. As far as I know, no one ever found out who did it.
Their backyard. I heard off the highway. Well,
Yeah, it was.
I
Well,
don't-
their backyard is rather large.
Which is the other side of the freeway here, is that
Yeah.
true?
on the Rockland
Underside.
Road.
It's
in
between.
the-
It's between Coffee Pot Road and Highway 28.
Just
So,
at the base of the old gun club.
not with a pellet rifle, obviously.
No.
No.
But that could have been many situations
Mhm.
on that one. They could have
Yep.
hit the dog and put it out of its misery, or because it's
Yeah, no one knows what really happened out there. Just that the dog was shot.
what is that the one? Well, it doesn't matter.
I think
Keep our
just-
eyes open, you know how I feel about dogs.
Yeah, exactly.
I like most of them better than I do a lot of people. So,
Well, that one's out of city limits.
Right.
yeah. Thank you. Any further comments?
I have one. I think we ought to establish a dialogue with the sheriff's office and ask them to give us any data they have on a real-time basis.
Okay,
And we ought to put out a letter to the citizens, maybe on the utility bills, apprising them of this, to spread the word.
would you like to take the lead on that?
I can do that. Can we include the letter with the utility bills?
Well, I think we can, if it's not too long.
A sentence or two.
Yes,
Okay. This is a serious matter in light
it
of
is. I agree.
the shootings we've had across the country. I think we ought to nip it in the bud as quickly as we can.
I agree.
Yeah, no doubt about that.
All right.
Anything you need from me, you know how to get hold of me.
Yeah, I just need the to know the amount of space in the letter and
Right.
the information, detailed
Jerry could give you
information.
that before you leave here tonight. There's not a lot of room there, so have to choose your words.
Bless you.
Bless you.
Salute.
Carefully. Excuse me.
It's about 2 sentences.
Yeah, there's not a lot of room.
It's
Just
about 2 sentences.
could we add a letter in with the additional letter
Yeah,
and fold it and put it in with the bill?
and we can put it on letterhead.
Okay. So we could put it on one of our letterheads on and put a whole page in. So it wouldn't go on the bill, it'll go in with it.
Good. Maybe I could work with Miss Moritz, get
It's okay.
any information she has.
Do you know which officer was called?
No, I don't. I just know that there were two, and I don't know,
Any?
two reported. I don't know whether they were both the same person or not.
Well, it's not like they've got 155,
Shooting incidents in Harrington?
well, I was gonna say 155 deputies in this county, so.
I know that John is down here most of the time, I think, but, and he might know without having to get a hold of too many people.
It might be in the
Evans.
paper next week, because they do the whole police docket,
Blog, yes.
yeah.
That's tomorrow. Yes,
So we read the paper tomorrow.
okay.
What's tomorrow?
Thursday.
I mean,
Pap-
what's taking place in,
The paper comes out on Thursday.
oh, yeah.
Well, you're gonna have to take it one step further, you're gonna have to look in the ordinances or rules. A lot of cities, towns adopt stuff like this to address it. It's not a firearm, so it's they call them dangerous weapon or pellet guns or BB guns.
It might be
usage.
bigger than that.
So,
It might be county, and it might even be state regulations.
well, I
Maybe
know
broken.
that state, well, I won't say nothing now, but,
They have addressed that with pellet rifles in Harrington before.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so there
It's
might be
been
on
about a
this-
year.
something on the books already.
Yeah.
we got red flag laws now, so we could put those into effect, huh? Come to your house and seize your pellet rifle.
It's not considered a firearm in the U.S., so, or at least
No.
in Washington. So